Okay, this is a short video I'm making for Kylie, the new owner of this, I think it's 7273 BV Cowboy machine, and I'd like to just run over a few of the basics. At this stage, one thing that's come up is to be able to do veg tan leathers and leathers that mark easily. I've got, for an example here, a piece of saddlery type leather, which is one of the softer feeling ones, which what I'm trying to do here is show that it marks very, very easily. And in order not to get marks with the machine, a couple of things need to be thought about when doing those veg tan leathers as against things like slings and shade cloth and things like that. The first thing I'll address is the feed dog feet. Now, to do some adjustments with them is the first thing I'll look at. At the moment I've got the adjustment on sort of a fairly medium setting, so I'll just lift the feet. Now at the back here there's a lever which lifts and drops the feet. So first up, you don't want any pressure pushing down on the dog foot before you do any adjustments. Next thing, you take out the plate, and just grabbing a screwdriver. This is the dog foot, and this is a screw here which you can use to take that dog foot out. If you wanted to take the dog foot out to change to another dog foot, you'd have to take these two screws here out, which will take the needle plate out of the way. In this case, I don't think it should be terribly necessary. What we want to do is be able to adjust the dog feet up and down. So hopefully, I'll just set the camera down for a second while I undo that. Right, okay, I had it fairly tight. Now I'll just loosen that right off a bit so that I can show here. Hopefully you can see the dog feet can be set to up there or down there. One of the things before you go too far with that is just to make sure that you have the dog feet in the up position. Notice when I move or hand wheel it, the dog feet can go up and down. So you want the dog feet up the top there like that. Now if you were doing light duty work, I'd recommend, I'll just get my hand in under here, I'd recommend having it set down reasonably low, probably so that the feet are just barely above the surface. I'll just tighten that up by hand for a moment. Right, so somewhere between there and maybe a bit further down is where I would set it. If you're doing the shade cloth and things like that, you may find it'll feed better if you take it up a fair bit, and that'll give a lot more feeding action from the bottom. But in that action you'll probably get teeth mark on your veg tan more easily. So here I'm just setting it so the teeth are only halfway in and halfway out. So I'll tighten that back up in that position. Right, put the plate back, and she's ready to go there. Now the other thing that a lot of people don't do enough of, and that is one of the rules of when you're stitching, this is your foot pressure knob here, and one of the best ways of getting good stitching, and particularly without teeth mark and that, is to run the lowest tension. So the more you wind that out, the less spring pressure there is pushing down on this foot. Sometimes I'll even get a hold of it, as you see by there, and see that I'm able to lift to a certain degree. Now if I'm doing, let's see if I can see it, a whole bunch of stiff hard leather, I would probably have to wind that down a little bit in order to be able to have it not lift on the run. If you get lifting of your job, so when the needle's coming out, if the job lifts a little bit, you'll get tension, the knots showing up on the bottom, because see just here at the start, the knots, the tension's not right, and in that case there, that could have been that the foot was too loose, or it could be that I just didn't have the tension tightened at the top enough. We'll go over the tensions shortly and the threading procedure. There's two tensions to be adjusted when it comes to that. Now foot pressure is just what I'm looking at the moment, and what I want to show is that even though I've got that foot pressure considerably off at the moment, I'll just tighten. You just put your lock nut down once you've established the spot you want to try. I think I've got the machine on. Yeah, there's the switch at the side here. There is a setting there which would give you an indication of the speed, I believe, and that can be adjusted to go faster by pushing the top button, or slower by the bottom button, I believe. Okay, now in this case I'll just run the job up here just to show what I'm talking about a bit. I haven't got it threaded up at the moment. The simple thing is a few things I want to show. Okay, now what I didn't do there, see how the job's come up? It's not touching down on the needle plate. Well, for one, I forgot to put the foot lever down, so now she's down. Okay, now if that tension is too loose, the job will lift up as I stitch along, and that's what we're looking for. Now it's only lifting by the height of the dog feet as far as I can see there, so even though I've got this relatively loose, it's a lot better for the machine if you're not running too tight as well. There's no point running a machine with a very heavy foot pressure if it's not doing anything for it. It's just wearing out the machine, making it work a lot harder. You want a nice smooth running machine, so that's the point why I'm pointing out. Now here, when I get up to the thicker, heavier stuff, and this is really hard leather, this stuff, so what I'm looking for, do I get any pull up in the air? Now, just because I'm not here without threading, that's not to say that when it's all threaded up and the knot's trying to pull up in the hole, that it doesn't lift the job. If that's the case, then you just wind your foot pressure down a couple of turns and try it there. The best thing is always do a few sample pieces before you commit to doing your job, in case it does foul up your job. Okay, here it looks to me like that's fine, and I'll just lift the foot. As you see, this machine's got a hell of a capacity to be able to stitch thick stuff. Okay, turn it again, run it back down. Okay, so what we'll do now, I'll just take that up. Okay, needle's out of the job, so I just lift it and take it out. One of the other things that can help sometimes, other than your dog foot helping things to feed, is you've got a banjo nut here at the back. At the moment I've got it set more or less in a central position. If you undo this with a 14mm spanner and take it all the way down, I think you'll get less lift with the feet. If you take it all the way up, you'll get a higher lift with the feet. So if you're getting really jobs that have got worse jumps than that, I couldn't imagine that you would hardly ever run into it, but if you were, well, you can undo that banjo nut and adjust the slide up or down and give it a try and see if that solves any problems that might be starting. Now in this case here, the way John, the previous owner, has got it, he's got the thread running off the spool this way. A little unusual, but it works alright. So bring it down. Here you can see the thread coming down, around, and then out the bottom hole. You come in between here on this top tension disc. Now I'll unthread it, just give me a sec. Okay, this could be a little bit tricky to do, trying to hold the camera in one hand while I do it. Hopefully I'm picking up on that. So I've come through that hole, over that tension disc there. Right. Now you pull it in tight into the tension disc while you're at that particular position. You can then feed it down through this hole. Hopefully I'm getting that on the camera. Now this one's a little bit more tricky. Come through there, you go round once around that second tension disc thing, and then once more around the same thing, and I'm mucking it up trying to do this with one hand. Okay, bring that up, bring that one over here, and that should be right like that. Okay, alright, that then has to come down to this thread return spring. Okay, bring through, so you got a bit of slack there. Then we come over to this thread return lever. Whoops, make sure I don't get that caught up wrong there, which I have somehow. Hang on. Sorry about that. Things are better with two hands. Right. Through there. Okay. Okay, now we're up to that stage. Come down, put him through there, whoop, through that lever. Best thing is to take a fair bit of notice, maybe take some pictures before you change threads or do anything, simply so you know all the different paths. This particular needle bar is set up to take the 794, I think it is, needle system. Because this thread that John's got running in it, it's a very, very thick thread, number 7 in size, I think. It has to have a large needle, so I think the needle in it's a size 27 that I got in special for the job. Right, look at that. Of course it had to go wrong at the last second, didn't it? Right, okay. Now, we're getting that on camera, I hope so. Rightio. Past that point, lift up, bring the, make sure I've got a bit more thread slack than that. Okay, bring it down and then just grab the thread. Probably a good idea not to have the machine on while you're doing this in case you hit the pedal and stick it through your finger. Okay, now I don't have a clue where the tension is at the moment, so we'll find out. I'm going to, I'll just see if I can set the camera here in a position to try and capture that while I've got both my hands free. Rightio. Come in here. Okay, I can't say for sure how the tension is yet. It's looking alright on top. But while we're here, I will do one more thing. This here, if I want to go into reverse, all I've got to do is lift that handle up and it'll go reverse. If I want to go for a wider stitch, or closer stitch is just closer to the middle. Wider stitch, you just wind it anti-clockwise, take it down, and you'll see here now I'll do a few stitches and it'll be a fair bit wider than what I was just doing. Okay, let's have a look and see. You see here stitching's reasonably close together, and then as I get along I've gone to a wider stitch. You can go to a lot wider stitch than that, and I'll open it up a bit more and we'll do a couple at that. Okay, as you can see there, we're now getting stitches that are like probably 8 or 9 millimeter long. Whoop, I think I missed that stitch. And one thing I didn't look at is the tension. We should be able to see now whether I've got, oh, well, that's pretty good. The tension's looking not bad. There's a bit of a fluke. Okay, now along to the next step. I'll just move that along. As I said, with this I'll wind the stitch back closer together for this next bit. In here, as I was saying, with the less foot pressure, the teeth not too bad. Even on this soft, easy to mark leather, I should be able to get a reasonably good effect. Now, this is coming in on the top, right, and there is little teeth mark on the bottom of that foot, which will leave a very small amount of mark. If you have a lot of pressure down, you see there's absolutely no sign of it where I've got it at the moment. I can just start to see on this one the tension smidgenly high, so I'll just take it back a smidgen. Okay, and what was I going to do? Go along, show you what happens if you've got too much foot pressure. I'll just take the pressure down a fair bit more. This is where a lot of people end up having their machines. They don't ever, some people I've come across have never ever touched the presser foot, and they wonder why they get such nasty teeth mark on the job. And as I said, they're only very light teeth on that top feed dog, and even though I wound it down, I'm only just picking up slight teeth mark there. So what I'll do here is I'll cut it and turn it over. So that we can have a look at the bottom feed mark. As you see, here's the good side. That's the back side of the leather now. And is that showing up? I hope so. In under here, Now, at the moment we've still got that very heavy foot pressure, so I'd expect to see some reasonably noticeable marks. But just now, we'll have a look at this in a second. I'll now back this off and we'll see if there's a big difference in the feet pressure mark when I back it out a lot. Okay, that's probably getting close to where I would sort of think would be a good spot. Maybe a bit less. Okay, right. I don't have a lot of this leather around, unfortunately, so I just had to use this particular pair to show off what I'm trying to show you. Okay, right, now let's have a look at that. Okay, yeah, very hard to see. It's actually, there's very little. The feet are reasonably dulled off over the years, and that seems to be pretty good for this situation. I can see a little feet mark there, but I don't know if it picks up well on camera. I think you can see it there now a bit. And as I backed off further along, it all but disappears. There's some feet mark from the earlier job, but yeah. So basically, even on a high setting, it's not too bad either. Not as bad as I expected. Okay, what else can I show you here now? We've gone through threading, gone through the foot pressure. I think that's about it for the moment. Yep. When you wind your bobbins, this is your bobbin setup. You put your bobbin on and push it in. When it gets full, it'll fill up and just pop off. Okay, thanks for watching.